Hello everyone, we are going to make the bridge asset as I promised in the short video. So let's get started. As you may know, this is a basic tutorial, but you have to already know how to use Houdini for this tutorial to make sense to you. So if you do know how to use basic Houdinis, you know what attributes are, you know what nodes are, you're good to go. If not, just comment below. I will make a basic tutorial as well if needed. So let's get started. Let's put a Geo Node first and dive in. So the entire asset is based on a line. So we are going to make a line with this node, and this line should go from 0 in z direction to whatever the length of our bridge is. So we are going to put the direction in 1. I will make the length for now 10. And we can put this line in the center, but I like the bridge to have a fixed side. And it's going to get bigger or smaller when we change this slider. And we are going to present this as a parameter, as you see in the short video, to the user so they can change the length. So we don't need to change the points because we are going to use a resample node. And the reason is we need in a resample node going to slice up our curve into smaller pieces, but they are just one curve, as you can see, one primitive, but the points are a lot more. And we need to turn on this curve view attribute. So this curve view attribute is going to add an float attribute to our curve, which is basically shows where the start and finish our curve is, and it's a float attribute from 0 to 1. And if we want to see it, we can hold the mouse on top of this node, click the eye, and turn on the curve view. By the way, I'm using Houdini 20.5. And we can see this from 0 to 1. And this is showing us. And if you want to turn off the visualizer, we can turn off this map icon here. So now we are going to make the shape of our bridge, basically the hill and the shape of our bridge, the height of our bridge, if it makes sense. We are going to do it in two ways. The first way is with a VOP-SOP, and the VOP-SOP is a basically visual programming language, as we will see, and you can manipulate the geometry with this node in a programmatic way, which Houdini is good at, basically. So these are the properties. I'm not going too much into the details and the basics. We are just going to make a basic graph here. So we are going to, first of all, add to our positions of our points. So every point in this curve has a position. So, and we are going to manipulate the y position. For that to happen, we need to make a vector. So we are going to make float to vector and add it to each one of these points. So this graph will run on every single point that we have here. So if I add some number to the y parameter of the point and the position of each point, you see the curve just lifts and moves. But this is going to add to every single one at the same time with the same value. We need to use this curve view to say to it, I want different values to be added to uh, every single point, different values. So for that, we are going to bring in our attribute with a node called bind, and this we are just going to type the name of our attribute curve u, which is the default name, which you see here, by the way. And we are going to put this attribute through a ramp parameter, and the ramp parameter is like this. So this ramp is, it doesn't do anything. I don't know why it's here, but it doesn't do anything. We have to change it back here in the VOP node in the upper level, but we don't want a color ramp. We want a curve ramp. So we are going to change this to a spline ramp. And when you change this, something happens. You see this ramp over here, this line ramp, it's not going to be like this. If you go up, you see that the ramp is just flat. So just change it so we can see the results of what we are doing. So now we can just put this into the Y uh, uh, index or Y attribute of this Y pin, second pin of this float to vector, and it makes a vector and adds it to the point attribute, to the position attribute, and we see, voila, like this. It's going to be exactly like this ramp, and if we change it, we can make kind of a hill, or like this, or like this, whatever you want to be. So basically you get the idea. But I just want to make this a hill, and the format of the curve I want Catmull around. So it's like this. But there is some limitation to this. If we want this, if you see this curve from the other angle, you see the height is only 1. And if we want to have more than one height, we have to manipulate this curve, which is not good representation. So we are going to make another parameter, which is a multiplier for this parameter. And how we do this, we are going to put a multiply node here and just middle click on this pin and say promote to parameter. When you see something like this, if you double click on it, it will make it bigger and you can see it. I will make it like this, and we call this HM height multiplier, and I'm just going to name it so we can recognize it. Height, like my keyboard is just doing weird things. That multiplier with 1e, and the default number is just 1, and I'm just make the range into 0 and let's say 5 or 10. You can change it here as you wish. And when we go up, we see another parameter here, which is the multiplier. If I change this, you can multiply the entire height of your bridge. Okay, everything is finished here. This is a simple graph, and we are going to just name it build base curve and add a VOP the end of this node. Always work in organize and name your node. So I'm going to save this. Let's save bridge. Okay, and now we are going to make the exact same thing, but this time we are going to make it with Vex. So Vex is, I want to introduce you to Vex at this time, and the vex is in Houdini's internal one of Houdini's internal programming language, which you can manipulate the geometry with. The VOP is itself, it is a vex thingy. It underneath, under the hood, it is vex, so you can see the view vex code. If you right click on it and see the vex code, you see it is vex, but it's much more complicated. We did a lot of things here, but we are going to do exact same thing with vex, just with 3 lines of code or less. We can do it in 1 line, but I want to show you how it's going to work. So we are going to make a float and call it curve and make a ramped parameter. I'm going to call it ramped curve. This is the name of it. And what attribute is going to get is the curve attribute. So we don't need to import our attribute in vex. The vex is already have access to all of the attributes of our geometry. U curve is then, or curve U, sorry, curve U. I don't know if I did that correctly. It's going to, so when I write this and click this, it's going to make a ramp for me. And why it's going to make a spline ramp? Because I put this F, which means float, here. And yeah, this is the ramp. Now we just want the multiplier, so I'm gonna call it height multiplier HM and CHF, which means I want a float channel height multiplier. There, I hope I spelled that correctly. What are you doing? Okay. Now, if I hit that, we see that, and I'm gonna put it at it. Now we are going to put this to work. So V at P, which is the position, we want the Y parameter of the P vector. We want the Y, and we're just going to make it curve, which is the name of the float, and multiply it with HM, which is the height multiplier. So if I do that, you see immediately our curve has changed, and we can do a hill exactly what we did, and it's doing the exact same thing. And by the way, Vex is much faster than WAP, but in this situation, which is not a huge, it doesn't make a huge difference because we are not doing much. So I'm going to just, for your sake, I'm going to put a switch, and we can switch between Vex and WAP if you want to. I'm gonna put it on Vex or WAP, it doesn't matter, you can choose. And we're gonna put a null here and name it and out base curve, and just give it a color and make it into. So the next is we are going to make the floors or the planks of our bridge. Let's get into it.